Even though it released back in May of 2018, it wasn't until the launch of the first 2 seasons of Cobra Kai on Netflix that the show propelled itself into popularity. And with its incredible selection of characters and intense development and story, it's no wonder that fans just can't get enough of the karate action and nostalgia that it brings. But who are the most loved and hated characters in the history of the franchise? And why do viewers feel this way about them? Well, whether you're a fan of the series or just want to know more about the characters that made the Karate Kid spin-off one of the most beloved franchises in Netflix history, you've come to the right place, as we're about to rank the characters of Cobra Kai from best to worst. So get ready to sweep the leg, as things are about to get interesting. But before we get into it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe with the notifications turned on, so you don't miss out on any of the new videos we post. Number 1. Dimitri. Our pick for the most loved character of the franchise might surprise you, and it comes in the form of Dimitri, as portrayed by the awkward Gianni DeCenzo. The main reason why we chose him to head up our list is his overall relatability and attachment to what the series is meant to represent. The Karate Kid and Cobra Kai are, at the center of it all, stories about the dangers of bullying. They also show just how helpful the art of karate can be, not only defending yourself, but finding your inner peace. Like most kids who found their way into the Cobra Kai dojo, Dimitri had a long history of being bullied. He was introduced to the viewers as both a nerd and an outcast, who was picked on because he was different. When we take the time to get to know him though, we see that he is not only one of the smartest characters on the show, but one of the funniest as well. Dimitri was the only student of Cobra Kai who saw the dojo for what it really was, an organization aimed at turning him into the type of person that was bullying him in the first place, just like it would happen to Hawk after all. And although Dimitri can be a little bit annoying at times, especially after that lackluster introduction of his in the first season, at no point did he change who he was because of external factors. The world that we live in is constantly pressuring the unique people out there to change, which is why we believe it was this relatable factor and humor which together made Dimitri one of the strongest side characters in the history of the show. Number 2. Aisha Robinson. Next up we have Aisha Robinson, who's portrayed by the talented Nicole. Once regarded as Samantha Lazarus' best friend, Aisha went through a roller coaster of emotions after she found a place for herself in the Cobra Kai dojo. Because of the contentious relationship between Samantha's father Daniel and Aisha's sensei Gianni, the girls started to drift apart as their loyalties began to clash. Viewers ended up joining Aisha on her emotional journey when she was clearly trying her best to be Sam's friend, but also wanted the solidarity that she found in being a part of something bigger. And in the end, she just couldn't leave her fellow bullied friends behind, choosing Cobra Kai above all else. And although she may not look it, Aisha is incredibly fierce. Many consider her to be a more outspoken and female version of Dimitri as well, with a humor that really cuts to the core. In her mind, everyone can still be friends with one another regardless of where their loyalties lie, in the broader spectrum of things, which is really how the world should work. Things are, unfortunately, not as easy as that in the real world, which makes Aisha's attitude something that people strive towards. It's no wonder she is such a loved character. Number 3. Johnny Lawrence. As the original bad guy from the first installment of The Karate Kid, you'd expect that William Zabka portrayed Johnny Lawrence to take the spot of the most hated character on the show. But Cobra Kai as a series was written with Johnny in mind, who very much takes the role of the lead character in the series. As such, the viewer comes to see a lot of things about Johnny's perception this time around, making him not only a wholesome character, but a hilarious one at that. In fact, it was the incredible character development of Johnny Lawrence that really grabbed the attention of fans. When we were first introduced to him, he was someone living in the past, an alcoholic of note, with absolutely no love left to give. That is until he discovered the potential hidden within Miguel Diaz. It was at that moment that Johnny saved the lives of a number of bullied school kids by training them in the art of karate. He even came to notice that the teachings of Cobra Kai were flawed, and although this resulted in him losing his dojo to the real evil, being John Crease, he was able to maintain his dignity in the long run. In other words, it's a combination of the ridiculous things that Johnny says and does that drives fans out the wall. Sure, he still makes childish mistakes from time to time, but the man has a great heart, and we just can't stop ourselves from rooting for him. Number 4. Robbie King. Then we have Robbie King, as portrayed by Tanner Buchanan. When first introduced to fans, he was by far one of the most hated characters on the show, as he clearly had a massive chip on his shoulder. But as the series proceeded, we came to learn that Robbie was just trying to fill the void left by his father Gianni, who he feels abandoned him while he was growing up. This is why he decided to find a new father figure, which took the form of his sensei, Daniel LaRusso, who just so happened to be his father's biggest rival. It was through Daniel's training that Robbie developed into the character we know today. But rather than keeping him as the quintessential good boy of the show, the showrunner decided to label him as a flawed character who still had a lot more to learn. We saw this when he threw Miguel's mercy in his face and flipped him over the railing during the school fight. His character development from arrogant teenager to loving pupil is what really warmed audiences to him. He was then changed into a bit of a villain due to the judgment call he made at school, but with time, he developed once more into an apologetic friend. There's no doubt that Robbie has been on a journey of note, and we also believe he is so beloved because he truly represents the type of character most fans want to see themselves as. He wants to be perfect, yet makes so many mistakes when when anger comes into play. Following the teachings of the LaRusso family is not as easy as it is made out to be, after all. But that being said, we have to hope that Robbie will end up being the next Daniel LaRusso in absolutely no time at all. Number 5. Samantha LaRusso. And obviously we can't speak about Miguel without at least mentioning Samantha LaRusso as portrayed by the beautiful Mary Mouser. Although her character arc is not as strong as the other characters on the show, she is the classic example of someone destined for something greater. On the one hand, she's a crazy teenager who makes all the classic mistakes when it comes to finding the love of her life. Her taste in men at the beginning of the franchise is atrocious after all, but then she finds herself fighting for what she believes in, essentially filling the shoes of her father in the best way possible. The only true problem with Samantha is her lack of loyalty, which is what lands her so low on the list. She ended up turning her back on her best friend Aisha, and then when things got tough, left both Miguel and Robbie behind as well. And while the situation she was in may have been tough, we are sure she could have handled things a lot better than she did. So we have hope that she will develop and move up in the list in the future, but for now, she'll have to stay where she is. Number 6. Miguel Diaz. Miguel Diaz, as portrayed by Xolo Mariduena, had a very similar journey to Robbie. He too was incredibly angry after being bullied for his position as an outcast at school. So when Gianni decided to take him in and teach him about the power of karate, he was more than willing to learn so that he could make those bullies pay. And in the end, he gave us one of the best fight scenes in the franchise by standing up to the guys who made his life a living hell. We came to learn that behind the karate teachings of the Cobra Kai dojo, Miguel was just a good-hearted kid who wanted nothing more than to fit in. And then he fell in love with Samantha, causing fans to see him as an extension of Daniel rather than his sensei Gianni. His time on the show has also been a bit of a roller coaster, as his relationship with Sam did end up bringing some jealousy to the show, causing him to become a bit villainous in nature, no doubt due to the teachings of his dojo, of course. As an unlikely hero, Miguel faced his biggest challenge toward the end of season 2 of the show, where he won the fight against Robbie, but ended up showing mercy by giving him his hand. It was then that fans saw that he was not actually a student of Cobra Kai, but a student of karate instead. The situation did end up poorly for him in the end, with Robbie attacking and causing him to be hospitalized, but it really did make him a more likable character in the long run. This also wouldn't have meant as much if he wasn't taken in the direction of becoming a full-on villain in the first season, which really makes us appreciate the writing of the show. We can't wait to see where Miguel goes in the future. Number 7. John Crease. Which is what brings us to the most hated character of the franchise, who just so happens to be the most infamous John Crease, as portrayed by Martin Kove. Towards the end of The Karate Kid, we discovered that it was the teachings of Kove that really made Gianni the villain, and nothing has really changed in Cobra Kai. Without getting into it, the man has next to no redeeming qualities, which is why we refuse to talk about him anymore. But what do you think of our ranked list of Cobra Kai characters? Be sure to let us know in the comments section down below.